You know what happens a lot? We meet someone, the chemistry is electric, the conversations are flowing, the flirty texts are nonstop, and it feels like something really special is starting to bloom. And then, poof, they disappear. No fight, no obvious reason, just silence. You're left confused, doubting yourself, replaying every moment to figure out what went wrong. And one of the most common reasons that happens is because for some people, the chase was the whole thrill. Once the chase is over, so is the effort. In the beginning, he's messaging you constantly, planning dates, making you feel like the most important person in the world. And it feels incredible, right? He's charming, attentive, and you start thinking, maybe this is going somewhere. But what you have to realize is that some men aren't connecting with you, they're connecting with the game. They're fueled by the pursuit, by the challenge of winning someone over. It's not about building something real, it's about that dopamine hit that comes from seeing someone fall for them. So here's what happens. The moment he feels like he's got you, when he senses that you're all in, emotionally invested, maybe even starting to plan a future in your head, his excitement fades. Why? Because he wasn't looking for connection. He was looking for validation. He wanted to feel powerful, desirable, admired. And when he gets that, he moves on, like a kid who's done playing with a new toy. It's not about you. It's about how he relates to the feeling of effort versus the feeling of comfort. This is why you can't give someone too much too soon. It's tempting, I know. When you like someone, when you feel that spark, it's natural to want to show them how much you care. But attention isn't the same as commitment. Chemistry is not commitment. And effort in the beginning doesn't mean longevity. You have to let people earn deeper access to your time, your emotions, your body, because the ones who truly want something real won't vanish. When the effort becomes necessary, they'll show up even more. Think about this. If someone is only interested in you when you're a mystery, when you're out of reach, when they have to work for every inch of connection, then they're not really into you. They're into the chase. And once that chase is over, their behavior shifts. The texts get slower, the plans get vague, the vibe changes. It's not necessarily because you did anything wrong, it's because the dynamic has changed. You're no longer something to win, and they don't know how to engage when it's time to build instead of pursue. Now, I'm not saying you should play hard to get. This isn't about games, it's about value. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are precious, and not everyone deserves to see every part of you right away. There has to be a process. Relationships are earned, not handed out like free samples. When someone truly respects you, they won't get lazy once they've got your attention. They'll want to keep showing up, keep learning about you, keep investing. But if you've found yourself in that situation where the chase ended and the connection disappeared, I want you to understand something important. It doesn't mean you weren't enough. It doesn't mean you should have done more, texted less, waited longer, or played harder to get. It simply means that person wasn't in it for the right reasons. You didn't lose them. They were never really there to begin with. So what can you do? You can be more intentional with how you give your energy. You can slow things down, not because you're afraid of getting hurt, but because you're aware of your worth. You can pay attention not just to how someone starts, but to whether their effort is consistent. Anyone can send sweet messages and plan exciting dates in the honeymoon phase. That's easy. The real sign of interest is what happens after the initial attraction is mutual. Do they still try? Do they still listen? Do they still follow through? Because the man who values you won't stop putting in the effort once you like him back. In fact, it will increase. He'll want to deepen the bond, to explore who you are, to build something meaningful. That's what you're looking for. Not a performer, not a hunter, not someone who thrives off your attention, but someone who sees your heart, your mind, your Suland, wants to show up for that. And maybe you're thinking, but I don't want to seem cold. I don't want to hold back. You don't have to. You can be warm. You can be kind, you can be authentic, but you can also be discerning. You can express interest without handing over the keys to your emotional world too quickly. Love shouldn't feel like a transaction where you give everything and hope they reciprocate. It should be a mutual unfolding. And if it's one-sided or fading, the moment things get real, then that's not your person. One of the most powerful things you can do is stay grounded in your self-worth when someone disappears. You don't chase, you don't beg for clarity, you don't contort yourself trying to figure out how to win them back. You observe, you learn, and you move forward. Because the man who disappears when the effort begins is doing you a favor. He's showing you that he was never going to be the partner you needed. The earlier you know that, the better. And remember, love isn't about who chases you, it's about who stays when it matters. We've all been there. Everything seems perfect at first. The chemistry is undeniable. The conversations flow effortlessly. You feel this connection that's electric, like you've found someone who truly sees you. But then something shifts. One day, out of nowhere, he disappears. He's no longer as present. The texts become fewer, the phone calls less frequent, and eventually it feels like he's dropped off the face of the earth. So, what happened? Here's the thing. It's easy to blame ourselves, to think we did something wrong, to convince ourselves that we didn't measure up in some way. But here's the truth we all need to hear. Sometimes, the person you meet in the beginning, the person you feel an instant connection with, was never actually ready for a relationship in the first place. It wasn't you, it was him. He might have shown up with all the right things at the start, but deep down he wasn't emotionally available for something serious. You just didn't see it. Men, like anyone else, come with their own emotional baggage, their own scars, their own issues, and sometimes, despite how well everything looks on the surface, they just aren't prepared to open up, commit, or face what's required for a meaningful, long-term relationship. And they might not even recognize that within themselves until things start getting deeper. In the beginning, everything can feel exciting, right? It's all fun, lighthearted, and easygoing. But as soon as the stakes feel higher, as soon as you start expecting more, some men, especially those who aren't emotionally ready, will shy away. It's not that you've done anything wrong. It's that they've realized consciously or subconsciously that they're not ready to give you the depth and commitment that you deserve. We often don't realize this until we've already started getting attached, until we've already invested some time, energy, and hope into a situation that feels promising. And that's when the hurt sets in. You think everything is moving forward, but then, out of the blue, he pulls back. He isn't as responsive. The dates stop happening, and then it's radio silence, and it's painful. It's confusing, and of course, it makes you question yourself. Was it something I said? Was I too much? Too intense? Too needy? But here's where it gets important. The truth is that when someone isn't emotionally available, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. And more importantly, it has nothing to do with your worth. It's not that you weren't good enough or that you weren't amazing. It's that he was never in the right space to begin with. And this isn't about making excuses for him. It's about recognizing that his emotional unavailability is something beyond your control. It's a reflection of where he is, not a reflection of you. This can be a hard pill to swallow, especially when you've built up this ideal in your head about how things were supposed to go. We love the idea of finding someone who's emotionally open, ready to take on life with us, but not every man is going to be able to show up as that person at the right time. Sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. And sometimes it has nothing to do with how amazing you are, but with how ready they are to be in a committed, meaningful relationship. When you meet someone who's not emotionally ready, he might show up with all the right words. He might say everything that sounds right in the moment, make promises about how he's looking for something real, and make you believe that he's on the same page. And then when things get serious, when you want more, when you expect more, that's when he backs off. That's when he becomes distant, uncertain, or just fades away completely. It's tough because in your heart, you might want to believe that his feelings are still there, but it's just a matter of timing or something external that's causing the distance, you'll try to rationalize it. You'll say things like, maybe he's just busy, or maybe he's going through something. And sure, those things could be true. But more often than not, the reality is much simpler. He wasn't ready for what you were offering. And that's okay. It's just part of the journey.
It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And it certainly doesn't mean that you'll never find someone who's emotionally available. It just means that this person, at this moment in time, wasn't able to give you what you needed. But that doesn't take away from your worth. What's key here is not to take this personally. It's hard, I know, but you can't internalize someone else's emotional availability or lack thereof. If he wasn't ready, that's a reflection of where he is in his life, not a reflection of where you are. We can get so caught up in thinking we need to make someone see our value to prove ourselves worthy of their time and attention, that we forget our worth doesn't come from someone else's recognition. You don't need to prove anything. You simply need to find someone who sees you, who is ready to recognize your value, and who's emotionally prepared to show up. So what can you do when this happens? First, take a step back. Don't chase. Don't try to fix things. Don't apologize for being too much or not enough. Instead, focus on you. Recognize that you deserve someone who is emotionally available, who can show up consistently, and who doesn't just give up when things get real. Stay grounded in the reality that you are the constant in this equation, and you get to decide how much you're willing to invest in someone who isn't giving you what you need. And above all, remember this, you're not just waiting for someone to be ready for you. You're being ready for the right person who will meet you where you are. Let that be your focus, because someone who is truly ready for you will never disappear. They'll show up, they'll commit, and they'll stay. And that's exactly what you deserve. You've ever been in a situation where you feel like everything is going well, and then suddenly a guy pulls away. He's distant, he's cold, or worse, he vanishes altogether. And you're left sitting there wondering, what happened? What did I do wrong? Let me tell you something. Sometimes the reason men disappear isn't about you at all. It's about how you make him feel about himself. Think about it. How many times have you encountered a man who's immediately drawn to your confidence, your clarity, your standards? You've got this air of independence and strength, and that's incredibly attractive. But what most people don't realize is that for some men, this can be intimidating. The reality is, when a man meets a woman who knows exactly what she wants, who has high standards, and isn't afraid to walk away when things aren't aligned, it can trigger something in him. It can spark his own insecurities. Now, before you start thinking this is all about you not being enough, or that you have to lower your standards to make things work, let me be clear. Your standards should never be compromised. What's really happening here is not that you're too much, but that he's not secure enough in himself to meet your level. And that's not your fault. It's his. The fact that you know what you deserve is a strength, not a weakness. But let's break it down a little deeper. Here's the thing. When a man sees you standing in your power, there's a part of him that wonders, can I measure up? If he's not entirely confident in himself, he might start doubting whether he's worthy of you. His insecurities start to creep in. And that's when things get tricky. He might start pulling away because he doesn't want to face the idea of not being good enough. And here's the kicker. Instead of being open and communicating those feelings, he just disappears, or he starts emotionally withdrawing. Now, let me tell you a secret. This doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean you need to change anything about who you are or how you show up. It just means that he wasn't emotionally equipped to handle someone like you. And that's not your issue to fix. Sometimes, when you meet someone with high self-worth, it forces them to confront their own limitations. And if they're not in a place to rise to the occasion, the only thing they know how to do is retreat. They go quiet, they pull away, and they vanish, leaving you confused, frustrated, and wondering what went wrong. But here's the flip side. When you meet a man who has done the inner work, someone who feels secure in himself and his worth, he's not going to be intimidated by your standards. In fact, he's going to respect them. A man who's emotionally mature isn't threatened by a strong woman. He's attracted to her because he knows he has the ability to meet her where she is. This is where you need to be cautious. If a guy pulls away because he feels inferior, it's a red flag. It's not a signal that you should soften your standards or dim your light. In fact, it's a reminder to you of just how valuable your confidence and self-respect truly are. If a man can't handle that, then it's better that he disappears now than after you've invested more time and energy into a relationship that wasn't going to work. So what do you do when you find yourself in this situation? The first thing is to acknowledge that it's not about you. You're not asking for too much. You're not being unrealistic. You're simply asking for what you deserve. And anyone who can't meet you at that level is not someone you need to chase, convince, or compromise for. The second thing you need to remember is that you don't need to lower your standards or change who you are to make someone else feel comfortable. The right person will rise to meet you, but they have to do that on their own. You shouldn't have to settle for someone who makes you feel like you're too much. You are not too much. You are exactly who you need to be. Your confidence and self-assurance are what will attract the right person into your life. Someone who can handle your energy and not shrink from it. Is another important truth. When a man feels insecure because of your confidence, it's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of him. Men who are emotionally healthy and ready for a committed relationship won't feel threatened by a strong woman. They'll rise to the challenge. So when he disappears, let it go and understand that his leaving is not a rejection of you, it's just an indication that he wasn't ready to meet you where you are. If you find yourself in this pattern repeatedly, ask yourself this: are you surrounding yourself with men who truly value your strength, your independence, and your self-worth? Or are you allowing people into your life who might not be ready to deal with that kind of energy? When you have high standards, it's a filtering mechanism. It's a way to attract the right people into your life. But sometimes the wrong people get weeded out. And that's a good thing. Remember, a man who's intimidated by your confidence isn't someone you need in your life anyway. A man who truly values you will love you for your strength, not shrink away from it. So, when you encounter someone who disappears because he can't handle the woman you are, don't take it personally. Instead, take it as a sign that he wasn't meant for you. Hold on to your standards, stay true to yourself, and trust that the right person, someone who is secure in themselves and worthy of you, will show up. Keep shining and let the universe work in your favor. There's a subtle truth I want to share with you. Some men enter relationships not necessarily because they're looking for something serious, but because they're seeking validation, an ego boost, the type. The kind who will pursue you intensely for a while, make you feel amazing about yourself, and then, when they've gotten the affirmation they were after, they vanish without so much as a word. The reason this happens isn't because you're not worth it or that you did anything wrong. It's because They were never really invested in you. They were invested in how you made them feel. When they receive enough attention, affection, or admiration to feed their ego, they move on, no longer interested in continuing the effort. It's the pursuit, the win, the validation that drives them, not the connection itself. Here's where things can get tricky. When someone's only seeking validation, it's not always easy to spot at first. In the beginning, their attention can feel so flattering. They show you affection, buy you little gifts, send you sweet texts, and you think, this is it. This is the person who's going to match my energy and meet me where I am. But then, just as quickly as it started, it stops. The texts slow down. They become distant. They pull away. And you're left sitting there, wondering what went wrong. What you need to recognize is that you are not responsible for filling someone else's emotional void. That's not your role. You might have a big heart, you might be nurturing, and you might want to see the best in people. But if someone is only reaching out to you because it makes them feel special, that's a recipe for disappointment. It's not that you're not good enough or worthy of deeper connection. It's simply that they were using you for something they needed, and once they've taken what they wanted, they're gone. So how do you stop this cycle? It starts with paying attention to the why behind their actions. Ask yourself, is this person engaging with me because they genuinely want to get to know me and build something meaningful? Or are they only interested in me because I make them feel wanted or special? You have to understand that your value does not lie in how much you can inflate someone else's ego. The signs are often subtle. Maybe they keep talking about themselves more than they ask about you. Maybe their compliments feel surface level and are more about how you make them feel than who you are as a person. Pay attention to whether they initiate plans, invest in getting to know your world, or if they're just there when it's convenient for them. A real connection isn't one-sided. It's a partnership that involves both giving and receiving. And if you're always the one doing the giving while they just take, that's a red flag. Another important thing to know is that some people don't even realize they're doing this. They might genuinely enjoy your company, but they're still more interested in the feeling of being adored than in the actual relationship. It's important to have self-awareness. And if you notice this pattern in someone you're seeing, it's okay to walk away. You deserve someone who is just as invested in your emotional well-being as you are in theirs. Now, you might be thinking, but I gave them so much of myself. Why didn't they want to keep going? The truth is, even when you pour your heart into something, it doesn't guarantee it will work out. What you have to understand is that relationships need a deeper foundation than just chemistry, attraction, or admiration. A relationship built on validation is not sustainable. It's shallow, and when the waters get a little rough, it's the first thing that cracks. Real love is about showing up for each other consistently, about being there even when things aren't perfect, and about feeling secure in the fact that both people are in it for the long haul. If someone's only there for the high of being desired, they won't stick around for the full journey. And that's exactly what happens when you're dealing with someone who's using you for an ego boost. They can't handle anything deeper because they've never been willing to do the emotional work necessary for a real connection. They're not ready for the vulnerability that comes with long-term commitment. What can you do about it? First, recognize that you don't need to lower your standards to keep someone around. If someone isn't able to invest emotionally, then they aren't the right person for you. And while it may feel lonely or disappointing when they pull away, remember, this is not a reflection of your worth. It's just a sign that they weren't the right match for you. You didn't lose. You cleared space for someone who will appreciate you for who you are, not just how you make them feel. The next step is to protect your emotional energy. The moment you start feeling like you're the only one putting in effort, that's your cue to step back. You don't need to chase someone who isn't chasing you. It's tempting to try to convince someone of your worth when they pull away, but in doing so, you're lowering your value and telling them you're okay with being treated as second choice. That's not the kind of energy you want to put out into the universe. So what should you do instead? Focus on building relationships with people who are emotionally available, who want to get to know you for you, not just for the attention you can give them. Take your time getting to know someone before diving in deep. Don't give too much of yourself too soon. Give yourself the space to be clear on your own values, desires, and boundaries before letting anyone else into your world. If someone truly wants to be with you, they will rise to the occasion and meet you at your level. But that can only happen if you maintain your self-respect and stand firm in your boundaries. In the end, remember, you don't need someone who's just there for the ego boost. You need someone who sees you, values you, and is ready to build something real. And that person will come along when you stop settling for less than you deserve. Now, let's talk about a reason that a lot of people overlook, but is crucial to understand. Sometimes things get too real, too fast. The intensity of a relationship can be a lot for someone to handle, especially if they're not prepared or not ready to commit. You know those moments when the connection feels like it's deepening rapidly, when you're talking about the future, emotional intimacy is building quickly, and things feel like they're shifting into high gear? For some men, that can be overwhelming. They might be excited and invested at first, but as soon as things start feeling real, that excitement can turn into anxiety. It's like hitting the accelerator in a car without realizing how fast you're going. Everything starts to feel rushed, and suddenly, they don't know how to keep up with the pace. So, instead of slowing down or being honest about their feelings, they simply disappear. This often has nothing to do with you or your worth. It's not a reflection of your value or how amazing you are. What it really comes down to is their emotional readiness. A lot of people, and this goes for both men and women, can struggle when things get serious too quickly. The idea of a committed relationship with all the vulnerability, accountability, and emotional depth that comes with it can be a lot to process, especially if they're not prepared for it. Here's where it gets tricky. When a man starts feeling like things are escalating, he might not communicate that with you. Instead, he pulls away without any explanation. This often leaves you feeling confused, wondering what went wrong, or if you did something to scare him off. And that's understandable, because when you're opening up and becoming vulnerable, you expect the other person to do the same. But here's the thing. If he isn't ready to go there yet, it's not about you. It's about where he is in his own life and what he's able to handle emotionally at this moment. This is why pacing is so important. Relationships need room to breathe. They need time to develop naturally without the pressure of rushing toward a destination. When you let things unfold slowly, it allows for both people to grow together at a manageable pace. If you rush things, either one person or both might start feeling like they're in over their heads, and that's when they pull away. Emotional intimacy needs to be nurtured carefully. It can't be forced. And if you try to speed things up before either of you is ready, the risk is that someone will check out before you even know what happened. Here's another thing to consider. Sometimes people are subconsciously afraid of vulnerability. When you start sharing deep, meaningful parts of yourself, your hopes, dreams, fears, and even your weaknesses, it creates a level of emotional intimacy that can be intimidating for someone who hasn't been given the space to feel safe enough to do the same. If someone hasn't built up their own emotional resilience or hasn't been in a position to practice opening up in a relationship, that emotional closeness can feel threatening, even if it's coming from a place of love and care. A man might love the connection you share, but if he's not in a space where he's comfortable with vulnerability or he's afraid of getting hurt, he could retreat to avoid those feelings. And it's not necessarily that he doesn't care for you, but rather that he's not yet able to process the emotions involved in a deeper relationship. What happens then? He might begin to distance himself or even vanish because he simply doesn't know how to handle the intensity that's now present in the relationship. And let's be real, this can be frustrating. You might be putting yourself out there, showing your true self and making an effort to build something real. But when someone retreats, it feels like everything is being pulled away from you without warning. It's natural to wonder if you did something wrong or if there's something about you that scared him off. But it's important to remember that this reaction often has very little to do with you. It's more about him facing the emotional complexity of what's happening and his inability to handle it in that moment. So what can you do when you feel like the relationship is starting to move too quickly? First, slow things down. Give yourself the space to assess whether you're both truly ready for the kind of emotional intimacy a relationship demands. There's no need to rush into defining the future or making promises when you both need time to feel comfortable with each step forward. Let him breathe. The connection you're building will still be there when you're both ready to pick it up again, but only if it's nurtured at the right pace. Here's something that's key to remember. No one is going to be able to give you the emotional depth and commitment you deserve if they're not in the right space to meet you there. It doesn't matter how much potential there is in the relationship or how great things seem in the beginning. If a man isn't emotionally ready, no amount of love or effort on your part is going to change that. And that's okay. It's important to recognize that the best relationships happen when both people are aligned, not just in chemistry, but in emotional timing. Lastly, don't take it personally when someone disappears, because the relationship was moving too fast for them. You are not the problem. Their reaction is about their own fears, insecurities, and limitations, not a reflection of who you are. If someone is truly ready for you, they'll be able to handle the pace and rise to the emotional challenge. And if they're not, well, that's just life showing you that he might not be the one. But that's okay, because someone who's emotionally ready to meet you where you are will come along, and they'll be able to match your energy and intentions without running for the hills. We've all been there. You deserve someone who can walk beside you at the pace that works for you both, not someone who disappears when things start getting real. Stay true to yourself and trust that the right person will be there when it's meant to be. Sometimes we find ourselves asking, what did I do wrong? When a man disappears, and I get it. It's frustrating, hurtful, and confusing. But here's something that may not be easy to hear, but is absolutely vital to understand. Sometimes you did nothing wrong. It's not about you. He just wasn't the one. It's hard to accept because we live in a world where we're constantly told to question ourselves, to wonder where we went wrong or what we could have done differently. But let's just take a second to step back. If he's pulling away, if he's disappearing without a word, it doesn't always have anything to do with your worth or your value. The hard truth is, sometimes people just aren't aligned. Sometimes it's not a reflection of you or the connection you shared. Sometimes it's just that he wasn't ready or he wasn't as invested in you as you were in him. And that's okay. You see, there's this dangerous habit we have as people, especially when it comes to relationships. We take things personally. We make everything about us. If he pulls away, we assume we're not good enough. If he stops reaching out, we think we must have messed up somehow. But here's the thing. He could have disappeared for reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with you. Maybe he's going through his own emotional issues. or he realized he's not in the right place to offer you the kind of relationship you deserve. But it's easier to blame ourselves, right? It feels safer. After all, if we believe we did something wrong, at least we feel like we can fix it. But the reality is, sometimes we can't fix it because there's nothing to fix. The problem isn't you. It's the mismatch between what you need and what he's capable of giving. And let's be real for a moment. It doesn't always feel good to admit this. There's a part of us that wants to hold on, to justify, to rationalize. We start telling ourselves stories. Maybe I said something wrong, or maybe I was too much. But let me ask you, what if none of that is true? What if it's just that he wasn't your person? What if there's nothing wrong with you? Here's the key. You can't change someone's feelings. You can't force someone to meet you where you are emotionally if they're not ready or willing. And that's something we all have to learn at some point. If he was the right person, he would show up. He would invest. He would be there, even when things get tough. But if he's disappeared, if he's pulling away without any explanation, it's time to recognize that this isn't your burden to carry. Now, I know it stings. It's hard. You want answers. You want closure. You want the satisfaction of knowing exactly what went wrong. But what you need more than answers is the understanding that his disappearance is not a reflection of you. In fact, it's a gift in disguise because it's showing you that he's not your person. And thank goodness for that. You didn't want someone who wasn't ready to step up to the plate, did you? You don't need to settle for someone who can't meet you where you are. And sometimes the universe will make sure that you see this before you get too attached. It's so easy to fall into the trap of self-doubt when things don't go the way we expect. But don't let this experience define your worth. You are worthy of someone who shows up, who communicates, and who is ready to build something real with you. And just because this person didn't turn out to be that person doesn't mean that your ability to laugh, to care, or to connect is flawed. No, it simply means that there's someone else out there who will appreciate and value you for exactly who you are. So stop overthinking it. Stop replaying every moment, every conversation, wondering what went wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. There are countless reasons why relationships don't work out, and many of them don't have anything to do with you. People have baggage, timing issues, fears, insecurities, and desires that may not align with yours. And when that happens, no amount of overanalyzing will change the fact that this relationship just wasn't meant to be. Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. But here's the most important part. Don't let his absence dictate your future. Don't let his inability to show up change the way you view yourself or your worth. Your worth is unshakable. And the right person will see that without hesitation. If you've been left hanging, take that as an opportunity to refocus your energy on the things that truly matter. Yourself, your goals, and your own personal growth. The right person isn't someone who comes into your life and disappears when things get real. The right person is someone who is drawn to you because of who you are and who shows up consistently and intentionally. So instead of questioning your value, stand tall. Recognize that his disappearance isn't a reflection of you. It's just a signal that he wasn't the one. And if you can shift your mindset around this, you'll realize that every time this happens, it's just clearing the path for someone who truly deserves your time and your energy. It might take time to process this, and that's okay. It might take time to heal, but always remember this. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's actions. You get to define it. Don't let anyone convince you that you're not enough just because they couldn't meet your level of commitment, your level of love, or your level of understanding. The right person will want to meet you there.